The new Premier League season is around the corner, and as always, I give my predictions every year on how the teams will fare. I've done this for the last 3 years in a row now. I always hate making the predictions because I'm always scared that I'll say one thing and then the complete opposite will happen. But other than that, I do enjoy making this video. So, we have the 20 teams all ready to be ranked, and the first of which, I don't think there's any point in spending too long about this, but I do have Man City to win the league. I mean, what else is there to say? They still have the strongest squad. They play the most dominant football, and they've got some of the best players in the league. However, I do think that this year will be the last year of how much they dominate the league. I think Pep leaves at the end of the season, and I think it has been likely for a while that he's coming towards the end of his stay at City. Hopefully he is, because it's getting boring. But for now, I still have Man City to win it. I don't think many people will be surprised by that. In second, I'm going to go with Arsenal again. I think they will still challenge for the title, but I still don't know if they are going to be as dominant on other teams other than City, because last season they had one of the best defensive records and they scored the most goals. But besides that, I still think they need a new striker, because they have Jesus and have Havertz. Now Havertz is good. Havertz did show form towards the end of the season, but I still think they need like an out and out number 9. The likes of Guy Carrez, Tony, they're all still looking for bigger clubs, and I think Arsenal still need that like out and out goal scorer to kind of like match what City have in a way, because obviously City have Haaland. Arsenal don't have their own type of Haaland. They have Havertz, which again is good, but I was going to say he's not on Haaland's level. Not many people are. They do have Calafiori, but I don't think he's going to be playing as a centre back. We saw what he played like at centre back in the Euros for Italy, but you're not going to be taking away that partnership with Gabriel and Saliba at the back, so I think he will be pushed out to left back. Now, I don't know, did he play at left back at Bologna? I'd be lying to you if I said that I watched Bologna last season. I know how well they performed in the league, but whether Calafiori will be suited to left back only, or will Arteta try to change that, is yet to be known. In third place, I'm going to go with Liverpool, and I was genuinely tempted to put them second, but the main reason is because they haven't signed anyone. Now, I think Liverpool are one of the main squads who don't need to add a whole pile of new players. They can see what the likes of other smaller teams are doing. They're signing a load of players in, they're bringing a new crop of players in. Now, some of that is due to their new manager. But Liverpool have a new manager, but he hasn't signed anyone yet. Which of all teams to not sign anyone, Liverpool being the only one that hasn't signed anyone is kind of strange. But I still think their squad is strong enough to not need a load of players. Like, they got Carvalho back on loan, who has been performing in pre-season. Whether he'll play, I don't know, because they signed a lot of midfielders last year. I also kind of thought that with the new manager, they may struggle to kind of like play the football that he wants to play instantly. Like they may struggle to hit the ground running with this new manager, but I think they'll be fine though. I think not definitely in the title race. They're definitely up there with who could possibly be in it, but I don't think that they'll be definitely in it. They'll be pushing for Europe, absolutely, but maybe just not for the title. In fourth place, I'm going to go with Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa, in my opinion, are one of the best teams in terms of squad quality and form, because we saw the ceiling of what Douglas Luiz can do and what Ollie Watkins can do. Obviously, Douglas Luiz has gone to Juventus now, so they may struggle to find a player that can match what Douglas Luiz can do. But they have signed a good few players now. Obviously, some of them are young and some of them aren't as good as Douglas Luiz. Like, they brought in Ross Barkley, who obviously won't do what Douglas Luiz did. But I still think their squad quality is better than a lot of others. It's kind of risky as well putting them fourth, because they have Champions League football. The only reason I put them fourth is because of how they had European football in the season that just passed. So I reckon they'll be able to deal with European football again. Because when Newcastle got European football, they didn't have it the year before. Aston Villa did. So I reckon they'll be able to deal with that well. Or better than what Newcastle did, or better than what other teams have done. In fifth place, I've gone with Manchester United. Now again, I was tempted to put them higher, but I think injuries and squad depth will be an issue. Because apparently Lenny Yoro, their new signing, is meant to be out for couple months now, I think. I might be underestimating it, because apparently it's a bad fracture or bad injury, whatever it is, and the fact that they already have injury prone players. It'll be interesting how Sancho plays as well, because according to reports, I think Erik ten Hag and Sancho have patched things up. They play so much better with Sancho, so I think he'll be a key player, and he should be anyways. I think that you put him on the right and you put either Garnacho or Rashford on the left, and then Højlund or the new fella Xerxes I think that's how you say his name. Put him up top and I think they'll be fine. But defensively is where they might struggle. In 6th place, now this might be the riskiest part of the video, but I've gone for my team, West Ham. Now I'm just going to say one thing and one thing only. We have cooked in the transfer market. We've brought in players to fit positions that we needed to sort out for a long time. Good quality players as well. A mix of experience, a mix of youth. I still think that we're quite shaky defensively. Like, yes, Max Kilman will be a decent signing, but I think I'm not convinced by him. I'm not convinced by only him, should I say. We were linked to Jean-Claire Todibo for a long time, but reports are saying that he's looking at other clubs. I think Juventus are big fans of him, so I think we need another quality centre back. And if the Wan-Bissaka deal goes through, that will definitely improve the defence. Now, what will be the most important part of how we fare is how the players will play under Lopetegui's system. Now, me among other West Ham fans have been crying out and desperate for a change. And now we have that change. I'm more than willing to back Lopetegui. But if his style of play doesn't really work with players, there's going to be a problem because the fans will get unhappy and impatient very quickly, and it could end up badly. But I'm more than willing to back Lopetegui for now. I think the squad is more than capable of pushing for Europe, and if it's not this year, it's definitely next year, or it should be next year. Like, I back the manager, and I'm more than willing to let this season be a step backwards to then have next season be 2 steps forward. Like, all I want is improvement on consistency, but I think with these players that we've signed, I think we're going to cook this year. And I'm saying 6 because I believe that's where we can be. I saw someone say on Twitter as well, or TikTok or whichever, competition for Fulkrug and Mateta to be the best prime Barclays striker. Just made me laugh, I don't know why. In 7th, I'm going to go with Spurs. Now, they do have good players, they have a good manager, but I just can't see what, like, separates them from the top teams. Like, I can't see what edge they have. Like, they're not better than Liverpool, they're not better than Villa, but they've still got something about them. Like, you don't want to like underestimate them, you don't want to overestimate them. As far as I'm aware, they brought in 2 young players, one of them being Archie Gray, which is a good signing, but I don't think those types of players are going to take them up a level, because while they're good players, they're not going to bring them up to a different level. In 8th place, I'm going to go with Chelsea. The main reason being their new manager. I don't know why they've sacked Pochettino. Their new fella is Enzo Maresca. He's inexperienced. He brought Leicester up, which, fair enough, it's a big achievement. But to go from bringing a championship side up to then managing one of the big 6 clubs, there's already an incredible amount of pressure on him. And I don't think he's going to do well, to be honest. I don't think he's going to last too long. He might last the whole season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I don't know, I just think that they're just gone back to square one again. Like, Pochettino showed form and showed a good style of football towards the end of last season, but in typical Chelsea fashion, they just can't maintain anything for that matter. I also don't feel like a lot of their players play for the badge. Like, they have a lot of individual egos. I think we saw that a bit last season as well. In 9th place, I'm going to go with Newcastle United. I still think they're a decent team and they've good quality individuals. Like, obviously Isak and Gordon are some of the best players in their position in the league, and last season they definitely got unlucky with injuries, in particular in defence with like Botman. Fairly certain Dan Burn was out, Trippier was also out. Like, a lot of their starters were injured, but I have them so low purely because I think when they face the bigger teams, they're not going to play as well. Obviously, the lower teams, you put your money on Newcastle to win, and that's what I'm doing. Not actually betting. Betting is wrong, I think. Is it wrong? Mostly wrong. Bet responsibly, that's what I should say. In 10th place, I'm going to go Crystal Palace. Palace fans are going to be very excited for this season, and I think that this is the year that they go from mediocre to good. That they go from a kind of mediocre mid-table team to a team that could possibly be pushing for European places. Elise is going to be a big loss, and I think we all knew that. They brought in some Japanese midfielder, it's a Kamada, is how you say it. And a few years ago, he was very good for Frankfurt. However, will that entirely fill the hole that Elise has left? I'm not too sure. But I'd say their manager can easily make them push for Europe. In 11th place, I'm going to go with Wolves. I think Gary O'Neill has done a really good job at Wolves, and they're one of those tricky teams that can kind of play well on their day and you don't really want to play them on their day. They can also be very easily taken apart, like they can be exploited really easily. But I think obviously they do have good players. I'm surprised Pedro Neto was still there, to be honest. I'd be kind of surprised if he stays there after this season, because I feel like he's the type of player that the likes of Man United and Liverpool will be looking at. In 12th place, I'm going Fulham. It'll be exciting to see how Smith Rowe fits into their system. I'm annoyed West Ham didn't sign him because he's a great player that's just been unlucky with injuries. I think it's obvious that he's going to be the main signing that they have. They have let go of Palini as well, which I think will have a bit of a negative effect on how they play in the field, and I think they're going to miss his physical presence. Well, obviously they're going to miss his presence as a whole. But similar to Wolves, they're kind of A team that you don't want to underestimate, but again can easily be beaten. Another team that fits in that category is who I'm putting in 13th place, Brighton. I do think they've had a bit of a fall off because a couple of seasons ago, you did not want to play them. I didn't want to see West Ham play them. They played incredible football, but I think last season they kind of took a step backwards. They obviously still have really good players and have really good young players. So I reckon they still will be tricky to break down. But I think with their new manager, I think that they may again take a step backwards. But again, you don't want to play them on their day. Like, they are tricky to defend against. In 14th place, I'm going to go with Bournemouth. Now, I like Iriola, but I just don't think they're going to be as good as last year. Like, Solanke had an amazing year last year, and a couple of other players stood out as well, but I don't see them pushing past mid-table. But I also don't see them being one of the favourites to get relegated either. I think they're kind of in the middle, like between those that could be favoured for relegation and those who could be pushing for mid-table, or just in and around that kind of area. In 15th, I'm going to go with Everton. I think they're just below average overall. Calvert-Lewin isn't getting any better. Branthwaite is still at the club, which I'm surprised at. I thought he'd be swept up instantly this transfer window. And United apparently were interested for a long time, but I'm not sure how concrete that deal is going to end up. I don't know, I just think they're really poor. They do have quality, but just not enough. In 16th, I'm going to go with Leicester. Now, out of the 3 teams that have been promoted, Leicester is the best. And what I mean by that is the best suited to stay in the Prem. They did lose Dewsbury Hall, which shocked me, and I think that's kind of a bad move. I think he would have been better off staying there, but I mean, you can't really blame him. A move from Leicester to Chelsea isn't a bad move, but I think for a player like him to go to Chelsea, I'm not sure it's that as big of an upgrade as maybe he should be making. I'm not too sure. I say that based on how messed up Chelsea is at the moment. But I think Leicester overall are kind of weak, but I think they just have enough to stay up. In 17, I'm going to go with Brentford, just missing out on relegation. The fact that Tony hasn't left is wild to me. And I don't think they have enough standout players. Like, obviously Tony is their standout guy, and they do have good quality midfielders, but I think their defence and keepers just aren't that good. And if Tony leaves before this transfer window or in January, they're in big trouble. I think they're already in trouble, and if Tony leaves, it's going to be a big problem. And that leaves the last 3 to get relegated. In 18th, I'm going to go with Ipswich. I think there'll be a similar story to Luton, where they'll push it to the latter stages of the season, but I just don't think they'll stay up. They have signed Amari Hutchinson, which I think is a good move, because I think keeping a player like him for a team like Ipswich is important. And I know they were quite a creative team last season in the Championship, but I just don't think they'll be able to handle some of the bigger teams in the Prem. In 19th, I'm going to go with Notts Forest. Now, they've good players like Gibbs-White, Murillo, and even Hudson-Odoi, but they don't have enough quality around the pitch to stay up, or at least I don't think they have. I think their manager is also not good at all. I don't think he's the type of manager to manage a team that will play good enough football. Like, they went through the cycle for the last couple of years of just constantly bringing in players and constantly letting go of players, so there's no kind of stability there. As far as I'm aware, this transfer window has been a bit calmer, definitely compared to the last 2. They signed so many players in the last couple of years. I'm not sure how many have stayed. And then in last place, which I don't think many people will argue about, is Southampton. I think that they have okay players, but it's more so Championship quality. Like, some of their midfielders are some that stand out to me, like Smallbone, Downs, and Kyle Walker-Peters, who I'm actually surprised is still there, but I don't think they'll stay up. I think they'll really struggle with some of the bigger teams. And there you go. There are my predictions for the 2024-25 season. I am looking at them right now and I'm trying to think, have I made a mistake? I just keep looking at West Ham and I think, God, I hope I'm right with this. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm completely wrong. Let me know if you think I absolutely cooked here. I hope I did. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed me rambling on about football again. I'm just glad football's back, to be honest. So, thanks again, and I'll see you all at the end of the season.